Hello. So I'm not going to lie. I thought for a second that the saga between Shannon O'Brien and State Treasurer Deb Goldberg was over, but it isn't. Let me fill you in. So Chris Ferrone here from Talking Joints Memo, and this is something we've been covering for years, as some other reporters. But we're kind of like on that day to day. It's not always thrilling. It's not always exciting. But today, this was pretty big news. So I guess I have to back up because this is just such an entangled a tale that has gone on since basically 2023. And what you really need to know is that Massachusetts, head of the Cannabis Control Commission, the chair, who is appointed by the state treasurer, that is Shannon O'Brien, who herself, by the way, is a former state treasurer in Massachusetts. She was suspended from her job in 2023 and then fired in September 2024. And then in September 2025, this year, earlier this month, a judge said that the reason she was fired, the whole rigmarole, this whole war that she basically went through with Treasurer Deb Goldberg for the past several years, it was not warranted, and that she can return to her job at the Cannabis Control Commission. Now, this is huge news, and I'll get to today's update. So basically what happens is that was early September. The treasurer, of course, appealed the decision, because that's what you do when you're using taxpayer money to, when your attorney is the Attorney General of Massachusetts. So they appealed the decision. And where we are now is the judge yesterday said that that appeal made it so that Shannon O'Brien couldn't go back to work right away at the Cannabis Control Commission, which, of course, the judge's decision in early September said she could. But what this did now is said she can go back to work. So from my understanding, and I spoke with Shannon O'Brien's attorney, Shannon O'Brien, their appeal is still going on. So Treasurer Goldberg is still saying we do not agree with the decision. I'll give you a little more on what that decision was. But in the meantime, Shannon O'Brien is going to go back to work, probably making for one of the most awkward work situations in the history of state government and bureaucracy. So a little bit more background, just because, it really is ultimately interesting. What happened was there was this huge internal struggle between O'Brien and other workers and commissioners and employees at the Cannabis Control Commission. And what she argues is that she was basically pushed out. Now, it's an interesting story because there were people who were on the other side, people who she did not get along with, one of whom would be Cedric Sinclair, who is the former, I believe, the head of communication, head of comms for a while at the CCC. Now, his story is different, but he also recently received his back pay. So basically, it's like everyone's right and everyone's wrong. And what's really most important is that stakeholders, people who are license holders, who even just consumers, are like, what the hell is going on at the Cannabis Control Commission? And frankly, now it's really going to be hard to tell. So with O'Brien basically gone for 2 years, they have kindly, figured out how to proceed. Now, with that said, it's a cash-strapped agency. They're behind on a lot of things. I'm not saying by any means that things are going smoothly over there. It is just going to be very interesting to see what happens when Shannon O'Brien, the chair who's been gone for 2 years, suddenly shows up at work. I don't know what tomorrow because of this decision. I'm not sure. But Treasurer Goldberg is still appealing the decision. I don't think it's going to change much at this point. It does not look like there is much merit in the appeal. In fact, the part of the appeal that the judge ruled on, I'll read the language right here. So, an appeals court judge ruled on Wednesday, September 17th, so yesterday at this point. The defendant has filed a motion for a stay pending appeal of the Superior Court's judgment entered on September 2nd, 2025, vacating the defendant's decision to remove the plaintiff as a commissioner and chair of the Cannabis Control Commission. In particular, the defendant, Deb Goldberg, treasurer, seeks a stay of that part of the judgment that orders the plaintiff to be immediately reinstated as chair. So that's the treasurer trying to keep O'Brien from getting back on that chair seat. And the plaintiff, of course, O'Brien, opposed the motion. This is what the judge writes. A party seeking a stay pending appeal pursuant to mass law must demonstrate the likelihood of appellant's success on the merits, the likelihood of irreparable harm to appellant if the court denies the stay, the absence of substantial harm to other parties if the stay issues, and 4, the absence of harm to the public interest from granting the stay. Long story short, folks, This is what the judge said. After careful review of the papers submitted, including the judge's comprehensive memorandum of decision and order, the defendant has not demonstrated, as she must, a likelihood of success on appeal. Accordingly, the motion for a stay is denied. So O'Brien's attorney, Joe Barrowland, basically explained Goldberg lost on the appeal of Shannon being able to go back to work, but the treasurer can still appeal the merits of Judge Robert Gordon's decision. And indeed, she is. So speaking as a spokesperson for O'Brien, Barrowline said, this is O'Brien's attorney, Treasurer Goldberg should stop her wasteful spending of taxpayer dollars and her continued attempt to smear Shannon O'Brien's excellent reputation. The treasurer has spent over $1 million on private lawyers and is now spending valuable resources from the state attorney general's office in prolonging this appeal. It's time for Treasurer Goldberg to stop her fleecing of taxpayer dollars. This juncture, folks, it's hard to say I disagree.